For 2 decades, Jason Statham operated by a simple, brutal code that stood in stark contrast to the evolving landscape of Hollywood action. While peers like Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel were busy building superheroic personas or crafting family-friendly brands centered on family, Statham remained the reliable, granite-faced bedrock of the genre. An Olympic diver turned model turned hardman actor, his trajectory was uniquely his own. He was the gritty ex-SAS operative, the stoic getaway driver, the man who spoke with his fists and sealed deals with a perfectly dry one-liner. In an era of CGI spectacle, Statham's appeal was his palpable, practical physicality. He never lost a fight he was meant to win, and he never betrayed the tough, grounded authenticity that made him a fan favorite. He was the last true action man standing. But in 2024, the bedrock is cracking. Jason Statham, the man who seemed gloriously immune to Hollywood's circus, is quietly, definitively walking away from the 2 mega franchises that defined his blockbuster era, The Expendables and Fast and Furious. This isn't a loud, social media-fueled feud played out in Instagram captions. It's a silent, strategic severing of ties by an artist who has finally reached his limit. And if you want to understand why, you need to look at the one tectonic force in Hollywood capable of turning collaboration into a corporate takeover: Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and the unsustainable ecosystem of ego he represents. Today, we're dissecting the calculated exit of Hollywood's last authentic action hero, the one battle Jason Statham won by refusing to even step into the ring. Let's rewind to the glory days. After The Expendables and its sequel blasted their way to a combined $575 million at the worldwide box office, the franchise was the undisputed king of throwback, meat-headed action. It was a love letter to a bygone era of VHS rentals and one-liners, and Statham's Lee Christmas was its secret weapon. The bridge between Stallone's grizzled gravitas and a new generation's need for flawless, high-octane ass-kicking. Statham wasn't just a participant, he was often the highlight, performing increasingly complex driving stunts and fight choreography that connected with purists. But the cracks began to show with The Expendables 3. The film was derided for its soft PG-13 rating, a betrayal of its R-rated roots, and its desperate attempt to court a younger audience with stars like Kellen Lutz and Ronda Rousey. It limped to just $214 million against a bloated $100 million plus budget. A clear sign the formula was rusting and the magic was gone. And into this void stepped Dwayne Johnson. Fresh from his victory in the ego war with Vin Diesel and the commercial success of Hobbs and Shaw, The Rock saw a dormant empire ripe for a hostile takeover. He didn't just want to join The Expendables, he wanted to rebrand it in his own image. Leaked reports from early development meetings for what would become The Expendables 4 detailed how Johnson's camp, through his $7 Productions, pushed for a complete overhaul. A new title, The Expendables: A New Era, and a narrative shift from a beloved ensemble to a new, centrally marketed power duo. The proposed storyline? A charismatic, high-tech mercenary, Johnson would be paired with a legacy partner, a role explicitly offered to Statham to lend credibility to the transition. But this was no longer the Statham show. This was The Rock's corporate playground. A production insider spilled the beans to The Hollywood Reporter. The negotiations weren't about character arcs, they were about corporate flowcharts. We're talking about clauses dictating the number of punches taken, the exact share of the final body count, who gets to save whom. It became absurd. The Rock's brand mandates that he is never ever perceived as second best, even in a fictional fight. We had charts. This level of micromanagement exposes a key difference. Where Statham's characters earn their victories through struggle, Johnson's are often preordained by contract. This clash of philosophies was a chasm Statham couldn't cross. For Statham, the balletic, bone-crunching violence in films like Crank and The Transporter was an art form, a legacy of his work with directors like Guy Ritchie and Corey Ewan. For The Rock, it's a meticulously managed shareholder meeting. Remember the infamous report from the Fast set, where Johnson had a script tweaked so his character would sit instead of lie down after a beating? That same energy was now being applied to a franchise built on its stars being vulnerable, fallible, and human. The very essence of The Expendables was its hero's mortality. Johnson's brand is built on his invincibility. While this corporate wrestling match was unfolding over at the Expendables, a parallel crisis was brewing in the Fast universe. The spectacular implosion of Black Adam, a film that failed to launch a universe and reportedly lost the studio up to $100 million, sent seismic shocks through Johnson's empire. His planned DC takeover was ash, and the franchise Viper was suddenly, publicly, vulnerable. He needed a safe harbor, a guaranteed hit to reassure the studios and his investors. And so, he orchestrated his very public, very humbling return to the Fast family. A move that reeked of corporate necessity, not creative passion. But his return came with strings attached, steel cables in fact. With the main Fast saga concluding, the new corporate priority became the expansion of the Hobbs cinematic universe. The planned Hobbs and Shaw 2 was suddenly being retooled. It was no longer a buddy comedy. Insiders reported it was being positioned as Hobbs of Fast Saga, with Statham's Deckard Shaw being systematically reduced from a co-lead to a glorified sidekick, a witty accessory in The Rock's grand redemption arc. A source close to Statham put it bluntly: Jason agreed to a partnership. What was being proposed was a subservient role. The math is simple. There isn't enough room for two alpha leads when one of them has a contractual clause ensuring he's always the apex predator. The script revisions made it clear Deckard Shaw was now just Hobbs's quippy British cousin. The facade began to crumble in public. During a press run for his gritty hit Wrath of Man, Statham was uncharacteristically transparent when probed about his franchise future. "There comes a point," he stated, a flash of genuine frustration in his eyes, "where the paperwork and the politics eclipse the performance. I got into this business to make compelling action films, not to manage the fragile egos of men who can't stand to lose a pretend fight. I started with Guy Ritchie, making films in the back streets of London. You remember what that feels like." He didn't name names, but the target was painted in neon. The final insulting straw was a coordinated PR blitz from Johnson's camp, framing both the Expendables: A New Era and the new Hobbs project as a passing of the torch. For Statham, a man whose entire brand is built on unvarnished toughness and a disdain for Hollywood nonsense, this blatant, disingenuous marketing spin was the ultimate betrayal. He wasn't being asked to pass a torch. He was being asked to hold The Rock's jacket, smile for the camera, and be grateful for the spotlight reflected from his co-star's meticulously polished dome. And so he made the only move a self-respecting king could make. He abdicated the throne. Through a terse, no-nonsense statement from his publicist, Statham confirmed he would not be returning for any future Expendables or Fast franchise installments, signaling a desire to focus on original and director-driven projects. But this isn't a retreat, it's a strategic liberation and a brilliant read of the market. Look at his recent moves. The critical and commercial success of Wrath of Man, a grim, methodical heist film, and his triumphant return to his roots with Guy Ritchie in Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre and The Beekeeper prove a powerful point. The audience is hungry for the real Jason Statham. These films, often produced outside the major studio system, are cost-effective and highly profitable, proving his standalone drawing power without a franchise backbone. He's building a filmography that mirrors Liam Neeson's later career resurgence, tight, gritty, and star-driven. He's not leaving the big screen, he's escaping the green screen. He's breaking free from the franchise machine that dilutes character for cameos and replaces storytelling with universe building. By walking away from The Rock's carefully curated, clause-ridden world of synthetic heroism, Jason Statham isn't just leaving two franchises behind. He's reclaiming his soul and betting on himself. And in doing so, the man who never loses on screen has just secured his most important victory yet: a future built on his own terms, not someone else's contract.